Hello, third graders. It's Mr. Bowen and Eleanor in space. Here she is, flying. Look at her. Now just imagine she's got a spacesuit. Do you know why she has a spacesuit? Do you know why she's bobbing around like this? If you were in space, you'd need a spacesuit. So you could bob around like this. Okay, Ellie. Thank you. My sweet little dog. Well, kids, this is lesson number 15. And today we're going to work on a spacesuit for your Minnie and your Mickey, okay? And just like I want you to design your own spaceship that goes to Mars, I want you to design the look of the spacesuits, okay? Now, what we've done in the fall is we've learned how to draw submarines and diving outfits. And an underwater diving outfit, it's a lot like a spacesuit, but it has extra requirements. Because if you don't have a good spacesuit, bad things can happen to you. Yes, bad things can happen to you. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But you'll need 2 or 3 sheets of paper, at least 2. Okay? And let's have it vertical. And we're going to make a 10-minute drawing of our mouse. Now our mouse can be either Mickey or Minnie, and it's not important that we get into great detail. And we're not going to think so much about overlaps now either, or the buttons, or the shapes of the shoes. The shape of the spacesuit is going to determine the final look of this. So all we need is a kind of a rough sketch to build over. I will make my rough sketch with dark lines. You make yours with light lines so you can erase and have what we call a finished drawing when we're done, okay? So, we'll begin with our circle head. Oh, good circle, Mr. Moen. Let me make this darker. And our oval or bean body. Now this is just a mouse that's facing us, okay? We're not trying to do any movement right now. We're not going to put on pants. Now, if you're at home doing this on your own, you can stop the video until you get these nice kind of sizes. The body is about 2.5 times as big as the circle head. You certainly don't want to have this droop down like a baseball bat. You want it to be swelling here, so we feel like this is a living creature. And you want a good circle for the head. It's hard to get those on the first time. So force yourself to correct. Okay, that's what your eraser is for. Okay, now we're going to remember this is where the arm begins. That would be the top of Minnie or Mickey's shoulders, here and here. And we're just going to have the arms go out and down on a diagonal. And let's not worry about a hand, okay? Because our spacesuit is going to require gloved hands. And we'll do the same here. And then we'll do our legs. Oh, I've got a nice amount of space here to make the legs longer. I like that. Don't draw any shoes. Now this is a very tall mouse. And then there's one really fun part that we have to include. We have to keep those mouse ears. And remember, the mouse ears are half as big as the head. If this circle were a plate with 2 cookies on it, and the cookies went from the edge to the middle, and the cookies touched right here, that's the size of the ears that you want for this frontal view. Now we'll just approximate that. Not bad. Make this one a little bigger. You see, I don't always make it right on the first try. And then we want to erase these see-through lines or any of these lines that you improve upon. And what's so fun about the ears is that your helmet for your mouse is going to have to make room for the ears. There are a lot of ways of doing it, and a lot of funny cartoon ways of doing that too. For a human being, the ears are just inside of the helmet. There's no sticking out ears on a human being space helmet, but Minnie and Mickey's ears are so big, we can probably do some very cute cartoon things with it, huh? Okay, now we're also going to take and make these arms and legs thicker. And remember, this kind of cartooning is called rubber hose cartooning, like your garden hose. No muscles. No muscles like in Marvel Comics. My good friend Linda is a master clothing maker. She makes wedding dresses and fancy leather jackets for rock and roll stars, for fancy fashion houses, all kinds of clothing. And she is applying for a job to SpaceX. And SpaceX sends rockets and space capsules up to the space station. And astronauts as well. They did send up astronauts, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, astronauts. So they're wearing spacesuits. And so they need someone that can help design all the shapes of the material that make up the spacesuit. And that's just fascinating. I can hardly wait to talk to her about it. Would you like to design a spacesuit? Mm-hmm. Now, we're not going to do the tail right now. We'll think about that later. So this is what we want to do for right now. But I want you to understand that we're not doing a cartoon like we did for the underwater adventure. The underwater adventure was a fantasy. I mean, we all know mice don't go in submarines under the water, right? But that was a wonderful story to make up. But that is what's called a fantasy. Now, I want your Mars adventure for these mice to be based on science. And we were talking about a scientific fact last week that when you make an airplane or a rocket go through the air, you will meet resistance. Resistance means the pressure of the air, which is all around us, and it pushes on us all the time. We don't feel it unless you're in a car and you roll down the window and your parents are going down the freeway and you put your hand out. Only do this if you make your muscles really strong. And you feel that air pressing against you, that's air pressure. And when a rocket goes through that, boy, there's a lot of air pressure. So the shape of the spaceship has to be kind of like a spear or a fish or a pencil that can spear through it. If a fish goes sideways, it's pushing too much air. Now, why do we have spacesuits? Well, it's so that we have pressure inside the spacesuit. See, here's a fact. If you were in a spaceship and you were in outer space and you opened the door and you stepped out into space, you would explode. I am not kidding you. Like a firecracker, you'd be gone, poof. Because you need that pressure to push in on your body. It helps make you and keep your shape what it is. You live in an environment, in a world, and you were born into a world that depends on that pressure. And if it goes away, and there's no pressure in space, your body, well, it expands and it explodes. Isn't that terrible? But that's a fact. So that's why we have spacesuits. Also, you want to have air to breathe. Now here's a little something that will show us how to understand air pressure a little better. Now this is the shape of an airplane wing if we cut it off. If you look at an airplane wing like this from the side view, and the airplane is back here and there's windows up here and people are going to Dallas or Phoenix or something, this is the shape of the wing. Now air pressure is even everywhere. It's even above the top and it's even above the bottom. And it presses in on all matter, all stuff. Now there's the front of the wing and here's the back of the wing. Now we're going to call the top of the wing A and the bottom of the wing B. Now I'm going to draw A here and B here. And if you think about the length that is here, because this curves more, A is this long here. B is a little shorter. Now here's what happens. Air pressure pushes on the bottom of the wing. It also pushes on the top of the wing. Because the bottom of the wing is shorter than the top of the wing, and the air pressure is even everywhere, the force on the bottom of the wing makes it push up. That is called lift. L-I-F-T. There's the same amount of pressure above and below, but because this is a shorter distance and that's a longer distance, lift occurs this way. And that's because of the air pressure. So this very clever design, the way we make the wings longer and curvier on the top and more flat on the bottom, that helps an airplane to go up. And then when you have a jet engine or a propeller here pushing wind against that, that increases the lift as well. Other things make it go up too. But that's something that you should understand. Okay, so we now know something about air pressure. Do you think there's air on Mars? No, there's no air on Mars. You have to have a spacesuit. You have to have that in order to breathe and survive. And I want to recommend to you that you watch the movie The Martian. The Martian is a wonderful 2-hour movie about what it would really be like to go to Mars. And all the rockets and the spacesuits, it's all realistic. It's not a fantasy. There are no weird Martians that show up or anything. It's just about how it would really be. And there's a spaceship on Mars, and the astronauts are walking around picking up rocks and examining the geology around it. And one of the astronauts is kind of far away, and this dust storm comes up. And there are tremendous dust storms on Mars. And it comes up really fast, and it blows through the the area where the spaceship is standing, and the astronauts are exploring the ground, and the wind and the dust start tearing up all of the equipment around the spaceship, and this big piece of metal comes and it hits one of the astronauts right in the chest, and he falls down in the sand, and he's almost completely covered up with sand, and everybody's running around trying to find him, and at the same time their spaceship might fall over. They can't find him, and they get into the spaceship and they have to take off because it's about to fall over on its side, and everybody would die. So they leave that one astronaut. Well, they thought he died. What actually happened was this. The metal pierced his spacesuit. He fell into the sand. The sand mostly covered him up, and the metal that cut into around his stomach, it did it without letting the air pressure out of his suit. At least he still had enough air to breathe. And a day or so later, he wakes up. He looks for the spaceship. He sees it's gone. And he has to get up, and he struggles, and he gets back to the habitat, the house in which the astronauts were living on the ground on Mars. So it's important that your spacesuit have that air pressure, that you have air, and it allows you to survive. So we have to design a spacesuit that's going to enclose our mouse in a safe way. And what we want to do is we want to use that very, very important line that we find in Henry Moore's artwork. Remember him? He's your artist of the month. Elephants are not astronauts, are they? Elephants in space. But we have two drawings here we can see. We'll look at this one first. He liked to show cross-contour lines that give a roundness to the form of the elephant's trunk. Even on the forehead where he's doing shading, he's making these strokes wrap around and give this, we call it volume, dimensionality. Or in this ink drawing, this is a very nice drawing. You see the same kind of effect here on the trunk. You see it on the belly. And I don't know, can the camera see these lines on the back? Mm-hmm. See these little lines, and we know elephants have sort of old cracky skin, don't they? Very heavy hide. This gives a roundness to this form here. Or look on the ear. And sometimes he'll go across and then he'll come up, and he'll go across and he'll come up. See, we can use this idea in our spacesuit. If you want to put a pocket on your spacesuit, there are ideas in here in the way the lines go across and up and over that allow you to draw a dimensional pocket on a rounded spacesuit on your mouse. So we say the rules of drawing are the same for all forms. That's a good example of it. Okay, well, here we go. I'm going to erase these pesky little lines here, so my mouse only is two shapes. It's the shape of the body, which includes its arms and its legs, like a very elaborate cookie, and the shape of the head overlapping it, okay? So first of all, I've got to cover the torso. And I'm going to have to make some lines that I'll be erasing later. And remember, clothing is thicker than the body. we know that if we do this, that's not clothing, that's an egg. That's an Easter egg. Like it's a painted thing. We've got to make the clothing thicker than the body. And astronaut suits, they don't really have pants and a shirt or a jacket. It's all one thing. It's like your pajamas that go from your neck all the way to your feet. So I'm going to make kind of a shape here like this. I'm making it wobble a little bit. I don't want it to be smooth. I want it to look like the mouse has moved around in it. And we want to make sense of this. We want to keep track of what we're doing. Teacher, stop this video at any time that you want. I'm going to erase this. Erase this. And then I'm just going to come down onto the legs here, and I'm going to go across here and up. Kind of looks like a big wobbly cookie, doesn't it? Then we can erase all of this. As I understand it, spacesuits are made of many, many layers. I actually got to put one on one time, and it was really heavy. I am telling you, it was really heavy. Okay, oh, this is looking okay. I'm going to do the same up here. Look, I'm leaving a little extra. That's where the astronaut glove is going to be. I'm going to come back here. We quickly get rid of the plan of the body, don't we? Spacesuits have heaters in them to keep you warm. Space is really cold. Mars is very cold. Now, we'll put on a glove, and it's going to be very much like the Mickey Mouse hand. Just a little bigger and a little chunkier. We've got our thumb, and then we have that short line and the long line, and then we have our 3 fingers. Oh, this is looking really nice. I think the plans that NASA is making are to go to Mars in about 10 years. Now you may not know this word. It actually is 4 words. National Aeronautic Space Administration. And NASA is in charge of our space program. Now we need big boots. Now we're not going to make Mickey's shoes, with the big funny the front of his shoes. We're just going to make A big boot. It just looks like a big potato. Oh, I love doing this. Okay, now I like this. You see how this line goes up in front of this arm? And then this space is open here. That's the way we draw an arm on the arm attachment when we see a body from the front. Okay, now I'm going to start putting on some of these wonderful cross contour lines. Remember, spacesuits are made of many layers. I'm just making this up. And see, I want you to make yours up too, okay? We're now at the point where we know how to draw this mouse and actually to make it move around a bit. Now it's time for you to play with it. There's always insignias on these things. Now I want to put a helmet on my mouse, and I'm going to do the fun thing that I've been thinking about. I'm going to make the helmet surround this shape. This wasn't my original idea. I saw a kid do this one time, a long time ago, in a cartooning class I was teaching. And I thought it was so funny and so fun. There we go. Now, your helmet might be transparent. That could be a glass bubble. Or probably it's a kind of a plexiglass, a special kind of clear plastic that's very strong and can hold air pressure. And then there's our mouse. I'm going to do Minnie in this case. NASA is planning a mission to the moon in a couple of years. And there's going to be female astronauts on the mission. No American woman has gone to, whoops. I'm just going to give her a mouth without lipstick this time. Only American men have gone to the moon so far. But now we have women astronauts, many women astronauts. Now, of course, you're going to need to have some controls on this. And right across the tummy, ooh, look at that cross contour line. You've got to do that so this looks right. I'm going to put some buttons and some switches. Maybe a little computer panel. So the mousetronaut can reach down and control air temperature. You like that word, mousetronaut? And we need a little communication device. I'm going to put a little thing up here on the shoulders. And for fun, I'm going to put an antenna on it, okay? So the mouse can actually talk, and the signal will actually be sent all the way back to Earth. Oh, what fun. Okay. Well, that's a very, very good beginning. And after you've finished this drawing, I'd like you to work on your astronaut outfits, or your mousetronaut. Got to get used to saying that. Mousetronaut outfits for this. But remember, we're basing it on science. This spacesuit not only contains air, but it contains air pressure that allows this creature to survive on a planet with no air. I mean, there's a little bit of air on Mars, and in fact, and this is really, really exciting, NASA has a Mars lander. It's going to land sometime in February. This is January, so the next month is February. And when it lands, it's going to come down, of course, and it's going to land. And there's going to be a rover that drives around and looks for stuff and drills in the rocks and tries to find microscopic life. But not only that, they've got a drone on it. And that drone, or it might be like a little helicopter, like you see flying around sometimes. It's a little helicopter, and they're going to fly it around Mars. There's enough air that it can actually fly. So this is a really exciting time for space exploration. Okay, well, there we go. That's our lesson, kids. And along with drawing this, you will have a very, very exciting time if you go to your computer and you type in these 4 letters, NASA, NASA, and they have all kinds of programs that you can watch. Some are 5 minutes long, some are half an hour long, 15 minutes, about what's going on in space exploration.
And they have lots of stuff for kids.
Yeah, and lots of stuff for kids too. So that's it for this week. Next week, this is the only fantasy part of our story. We're going to design Martians, okay? But the Martians have to make sense. We're done for now. Have a good week and bye-bye.